If we truly believe that our security is indivisible, we must do more to strengthen the sense of strategic reassurance across the Euro-Atlantic area. As we look ahead, our challenge with Russia is to build a relationship where the principles that both sides have agreed to on paper are consistently respected in practice. As NATO takes on these challenges, we must remain true to the original principles on which the alliance was founded. And I want to reaffirm as strongly as I can the United States' commitment to honor Article 5 of the NATO Treaty. No ally or adversary should ever question our determination on this point. It is the bedrock of the alliance and an obligation that time will not erode. Our nation faces threats elsewhere in the world, but we view peace and stability in Europe as a prerequisite for addressing all of the other challenges. NATO has succeeded in its original goal of forging a bond between the United States and Europe, and our commitment to Europe transcends party and personality. And I want to emphasize that we continue to see NATO as an important mechanism for promoting European integration. It is difficult to imagine today that when this alliance was founded in 1949, a key security concern for many Europeans remained the prospect of future German aggression. NATO's success in providing a security foundation for Europe's transformation is one of the great accomplishments, not only of NATO, but, as many of you also believe, of any political military alliance in history, and it must remain a defining feature. The NATO membership process, which requires applicants to make reforms across their political, economic, and defense sectors, has helped create the stable, democratic Europe we see today. We were glad to see the alliance welcome Albania and Croatia last year, and there can be no question that NATO will continue to keep its door open to new members. NATO must also forge deeper partnerships with leading democracies beyond the Euro-Atlantic community. We're already working with many of these nations in Afghanistan, and we must find ways to build on these efforts and encourage more regular cooperation. We have already determined the need for a NATO that can operate at strategic distance. We need to cultivate strategic relationships in support of that goal. In order to achieve these goals and address these challenges, we'll need to ensure that the evolution of NATO's political capabilities keeps pace with its operational capabilities. NATO has never existed as a solely military alliance. It is also a political forum where democracies come together and act together to defend our values and our vision, along with our peoples and our territory. The political side of NATO may receive comparatively little attention, but it is every bit as important. NATO's military structures make it possible to implement policy, but it is the political structures that determine that policy. Now, I am not asking for more ministerial meetings, unless, in fact, there is a proven need for them. But I am asking that in addition to honoring Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, we reaffirm our commitment to Article 4, where allies pledge to consult together about political and security developments. These discussions are the lifeblood of NATO's future. And that leads me to a final critical point, the need for NATO reform. This topic has received considerable attention from NATO's defense ministers. It hasn't been as much of a focus for NATO foreign ministers, but it should be. NATO headquarters is bulging with over 300 committees, many with overlapping responsibilities. Too often our budgets, military and civilian, are divorced from alliance priorities, and the most important priorities have been under-resourced for years. Our Secretary General has not been invested with the power he needs to truly manage the organization. This must change, and we must agree to that change in parallel with the new strategic concept. A new concept with old structures will not be transformational. In fact, it may not change much of anything at all. Secretary Gates will address this issue further tomorrow. But I want to make it clear that we are united in our belief that in a time of limited resources for all of our nations, NATO must improve its efficiency if it is to successfully carry out its vital missions. Let me conclude where I began. Those of us responsible for crafting a new strategic concept do face a great challenge and a great opportunity. The phrase post-Cold War says more about what our current era is not than about what it is or should be. All of us here today will help define what this new era will become. NATO has always been the institutional means through which our democracies meet the security challenges of our day. And the issues we're facing now are broader and arguably more difficult than before. I'm not coming to you today with a new catchphrase, but I know that if we are to succeed in our efforts, NATO must remain the cornerstone of Euro-Atlantic security. Yet we also cannot shut our eyes or shut our doors to those challenges that transcend geography and the traditional definitions of security problems. Each and every one of the member nations is grappling with that on our own. NATO must be part of us helping to find the solutions. And as we do so, this alliance will continue enhancing the peace and progress of an interconnected world. The work ahead won't be easy, but done right, it will allow future generations to enjoy advances in security and prosperity that equal the inheritance we received from NATO's founders. I thank you for what you all are doing, and I applaud your efforts. And President Obama and I look forward to seeing the results of your deliberations. It is not an overstatement to say so much of what we now take for granted that we have seen develop since the beginning of NATO must be addressed and continued with the same passion and sense of mission that the founders of NATO felt. They took a big leap of faith. There was no guarantee at all that their hopes would ever be realized, but they believed that they had to move forward together. I believe very much the same. The world is in many crises right now, but one of the crises is a crisis of leadership, particularly in democracies. And we have to demonstrate individually in our own democratic nations, collectively through an organization such as NATO, that we can meet the challenge that is confronting leadership today. What will we do today that will stand the test of time as those who stood in hotel rooms and nations' capitals 50 years ago have been able to produce? And those who helped to create NATO so many years ago understood what leadership meant, that it might not be quickly understood or rewarded, but that the obligations went far beyond the immediate. That is, I think, the obligation we face now. And the Obama administration and the United States stands ready to work with you so that 50 years from now, people can look back and say, we met the challenge of our time, and that this strategic concept gave us a way forward that was desperately needed, and that the leadership was there to fulfill it. Thank you all very much.